So welcome, everyone. I'm Roger Rayle. I'm Chair of CARD and Chair of Residents for Safe Water. And this is a monthly CARD meeting, so there won't be as many people, officials here as what we would get next month at the quarterly meeting. But again, this meeting is being recorded, and we will post it up to YouTube right after the meeting is over. It'll be available along with the links and all the things. I'm going to share my screen. This screen two. All right. What was you said there's a different way to raise your hand now. Who found that?
It's the same. You just click on the heart, not on the little arrow next to the heart.
Heart, where's the heart?
On the bottom.
The bottom chat and share.
Yeah, react.
It's on the bottom toolbar.
Oh,
It's in the middle there.
I don't know. For some reason, I'm not seeing a heart, but then again,
It's sort of a sideways tilted heart and it says react underneath it.
It may not show up once I'm sharing. I don't know. Anyway,
goes
as long as
audio,
everybody
video.
else sees it, if they have to raise their hand, that'd be a good place to do it. Anyway, I'm going to turn it over to Beth because we have the minutes from last month to approve.
Thank you, Roger. The January minutes were attached to the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the January minutes?
So moved.
So moved.
And any concerns? How about all in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there anyone opposed to approving the minutes? No? Okay, great. Thank you. The minutes are approved. And
Thanks,
now
Beth.
I'm going to turn it over to Rita Loch-Caruso, who is moderating our meeting tonight. Thank you, Rita.
Hi, yes, I'm stepping in for Jack again. And so please bear with me if I I'll do my best not to overlook anyone who's raised their hand and wishes to speak. But if I have, just please speak up and be patient with me. Okay, so the first thing on our agenda is one that's very important to all of us, which is a US EPA update. And I'm going to just ask, is there a representative from the EPA on the line? Anyone who could give us an update? Not hearing that. Roger, do you want to comment on any of those bulleted items under item A?
Well, don't have any updates on any of that.
Yeah, there's nothing new, I don't think. Yeah.
And as far as I understand, the process is still moving along and it may happen this spring, but I don't have any definitive word one way or the other.
Okay. Well, let me just ask, since I did hear a ping of somebody joining. By any chance, was that a representative from the EPA? No? Okay. All right. So Georgia Frost is on the call, and she is working with Congressman Debbie Dingell's team. And Georgia, I wonder if you have any updates to share with us.
Yep. Hi, everyone. Since we last spoke, a change in administration has kept our office extremely busy. I have to imagine that as engaged community members, you are no stranger to the flurry of changes that have gone on by response to executive orders and other executive actions that the new administration has taken. And I did just want to mention that we've been very concerned about the prospect of a federal funding freeze, though, of course, federal judges did put an end to what the memo had as that did not mean that people were not affected in the interim. And the White House has said by way of speaking through their press secretary, that it's not true that a federal funding freeze is not in the cards. It's just that they had to walk back their memo that they sent out. So we have been trying to solicit input from folks. And sorry if you can hear my cat very loudly meowing in the background. I don't know what he wants to hear, but anyway, we have created a survey for folks to complete. Basically, what we're just trying to do is get insight from people about what a federal funding freeze would mean for them. We know that it's not only something that affects grantees and folks in active loans with the federal government. It goes pretty far beyond that. There are plenty of people receiving federal benefits that the administration was not able to confidently state wouldn't be affected, though they kept saying that direct assistance programs would be kept out of a federal funding freeze, but then the response from states proved otherwise. So if anyone would be willing to complete the survey, either as an individual or as a representative of an organization, that would be very appreciated. Since I'm talking about it right now, we'll just drop that link in the chat. Got a direct one.
Great.
So that it's not hard to go find it. And it's pretty short. Some folks have found that they don't have a ton to add as individuals because, of course, the actual enactment of a federal funding freeze would be what might really affect them on a individual basis. But we want to know where folks saw the response personally for them, if they consistently work with a state agency that is funded by federal monies, and they know that this benefit is, going to be down at certain points. We saw a lot of portals go down that folks usually access to receive payment for invoices from, especially at the state level. We just want all of that input because the administration is not going to share those responses with members of Congress. We have to go do that fact finding ourselves. If you would be so willing to complete that survey, I promise it's not super long. That would be excellent. We would really appreciate it. That has been a top button issue that people have been contacting us about. So, of course, in the past couple of days, calls that we have received have been overwhelmingly about Elon Musk's access across a couple of federal agencies to sensitive data that typically only someone in an elected position with certain security clearances or someone who's appointed would have access to. And folks are very understandably upset about that and concerned about what that means for them. The Congresswoman is also extremely concerned about that. And of course, doing something about a lot of these things is contingent on a sense of political will held by Congress. And if there is no will, then it's very difficult to present a challenge to some of these more concerning actions that were taken. But I know that it's super long, and maybe some of you are concerned about some of these things, but not all of them, since I know we're at a card meeting. I just wanted to reference that if folks are especially trying to tap into what Democrats and Republicans are saying across Congress about the hundreds of things that have happened since the administration has come into office. There has been lots of public information shared on House committee websites. And I specifically thought that this committee, coalition card in particular, might be interested in, what House Natural Resources or Energy and Commerce is putting out. So I just encourage that if you're interested in those kinds of responses, that you visit those websites and check out what those committee members are talking about doing, since that's a good mobilizing force for some of the things we're talking about. But in general, I would ask that people share basically any feedback with our office. It's very useful.
Thank you. I think that's very helpful, and I'm glad that you put the link in the chat. Could you possibly put a link in the chat also to where people could go to follow those discussions that you just mentioned there at the end of your comment?
Mm-hmm. Yes. I can do that for the websites. And then, of course,
That would be great.
if anyone here isn't signed up for our newsletter, which isn't necessarily a given, that's also where our office specifically messages on the biggest issues and also comments on different pieces of legislation that the Congresswoman's introducing. But some of the things I just mentioned are on other websites that I would be happy to put in the chat as soon as I'm done talking
Right.
for everyone review.
Okay, and thanks so much. James, you have a comment, question?
Yeah, thanks, Rita. And thank you, Georgia, for a rather comprehensive report. I think I speak on behalf of everybody, on behalf of CARD, that we're obviously watching this issue, particularly the actions of Mr. Musk, very intently. It's something that I think we're all deeply concerned with. Just to verify, Georgia, specifically with respect to EPA and Superfund, has you heard anything from either Region 5 National, any change in terms of the Superfund program itself at this time?
Well, we will not know the extent of how the federal workforce will change for quite some time, though there have been some extreme measures that we could expect to affect those things. As we've talked about here, we were not entirely sure what the new EPA administrator pick would mean for the program overall, but we do know that there are plenty of federal workforce members who have been offered the chance to leave with severance pay, or to risk being demoted. All those things are contingent on what the administration has identified as either federal waste or something that they want to go after positions wise. We've not heard of anything specifically targeting the Superfund program as a category of that. That being said, I have no idea exactly how many people in those teams would be affected by programs like this, especially considering that I'm sure many people followed the coverage of the fork in the road email sent out to so many people in the federal workforce. Those people, either are deciding to stay or leave. And of course, we don't have any, data on exactly how many people will accept that at this point. Something that I think is well within our ability to do once the administration is really up and running in the federal agencies is to inquire with them on the site staff that are assigned specifically to Gelman. Before, I'm sure you remember, EPA started figuring out whom would be responding to this group in particular, who would be working on the site once it was listed formally. We got that information about the site manager and other personnel at EPA who'd be working on it. And I don't know if those people are still going to be assigned, come this spring. So that's the kind of thing that we'd like to know, is if those folks are still there. And if so, if they're still assigned to this particular site. So again, right now, a lot of people are not responding to us. There's a huge fear of retribution. That if they put something in email that someone may not like, that would risk their job. And so, we've really been struggling to get any information from the agencies just in a blanket statement. But I mean, we can't blame people also for not knowing if their department heads and the administration themselves don't tell them how their position will change. So I think a lot of people are still trying to figure all that out. I know that's another really long rambling answer, but I guess I was just trying to cover the multitude of
I appreciate that. And again, I think it's extremely troubling, I think, from all counts. And one thing I am, again, confident saying, I think for behalf of all of us, appreciate yours and the Congresswoman's work and guiding us through all of this. So thank you. And I'm sure you'll keep us informed of what's happening in terms of other things. And once again, thank you for your advocacy and thank you for shepherding us through all this.
Yeah. Vince, you have your hand up?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Forrest, for the report. Appreciate that. I've read a couple articles recently in the New York Times, Washington Post. Unfortunately, it sounds like there's going to be major cuts at EPA. Um, I'm afraid that, that may affect a lot of projects that are ongoing, including potentially the Gelman site. So we should keep our eyes open and maybe try and uh, provide some influence, but it's going to be really difficult, I think. But that's currently how they're putting it out, as they're going to do a lot of cuts on a lot of programs in the federal government. Uh, so that's just wanted to make that point. Thanks.
Okay. Anyone else with a question or?
Yeah, I have my hand up because I
Oh,
can't find the button
oh,
on
yeah, I
the
can't see it. Sorry. Go ahead,
um,
Roger.
anyway, thanks, Georgia. And what I worry about, and maybe you're already worried about this too, is that we're not getting all the information. I mean, the information we're getting is like a fire hose of stuff, and to be able to understand it and get it all, you have to have like several sets of ears. But that's not all the information. There's probably stuff going on that we don't know about because we're being distracted by these different things that are going on. So how are you and the other people there dealing with this? How do you handle this uh, massive amount of distraction and information and misinformation and starts and stops? And I mean, is there anything we can do to help out with that in any way?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's not a way that I would say, oh, this has been our response, like this is how our team is operating or other congressional offices are operating, because I don't know that that's consistent across the House or the Senate. We, every day there's something else, or hundreds of things, if you're lucky. And, people are concerned about all of those things. I'm sure you've seen, if some of you are in advocacy groups or connected with the state agencies in any way, that a lot of them have said, contact if you're concerned about this, or especially with the federal funding freeze. That's something that I think was very galvanizing for people. It says at the bottom, call your representative, call your senators. And the unfortunate thing about that is that, of course, we want to know what people are thinking about and how they're reading it and things that they've seen. Again, I just talked about a little bit how, someone who needs specific access to a federal program might be the only person who knows that it has been affected because they got notification of it directly. That kind of thing is very useful for us. But it's not that, Congress, the day after something goes into effect, has had this briefing where they're told, so this is what this is what this means. And it's not a matter of, if folks agree with it or not, there's just no information. I think, something I'm personally really struggling with is all the resources are gone. The things that we could have relied on to give us, to answer some of our outstanding questions just don't exist anymore. And of course, it's not lost on me that a lot of people are just concerned that the government is no longer operating in a way that is predictable or reliable to them, which is certainly a sentiment that I can understand. So every day has been a lot of being reactive, which is not, of course, how anyone really wants to be in any position, especially their job, when it's, one that affects so many people. But we don't know what's happening because there's a lot of reason that the administration might not want to share that with us directly. And then there's, of course, the fact that there hasn't been enough information for us after something happens. There's no follow-up, so we don't know how to make sense of a lot of those things. And then
Yeah.
there's the question of if it will just get rescinded or get proven to be illegal, and then you do all that work, and then it's like, oh, but it's not happening because that was actually legal. So another bad answer, unfortunately for me.
Yeah.
But I maybe you can tell that it has been a lot of days of spending the whole thing on the phone and getting emails and not being able to respond to them because there are 9 more people on the phone. So, it's
You know.
been quite a bit.
Well, I think we have to have the mindset that this is beyond unusual, beyond the ordinary to the extreme. And um, in the back of my mind, I said, I think Trump is trying to beat Hitler's 55 days to undo democracy. If you have that mindset in government, the people that are still left, that maybe that's part of the plan. So if you have that mindset, we can keep it from happening. I mean, Germany
Perhaps.
didn't, but maybe we can. And maybe
Uh,
we won't have these meetings after 3 or 4 months from now.
well, I don't think, unfortunately, it's easy for us to predict what's going to be happening. And what I think we can say is that, Georgia, we really appreciate you hanging in there.
Yeah, keep it
That
Yes,
you
together.
yes,
are
indeed.
part of the team with Representative Dingell, and we really appreciate Deputy Dingell's efforts for not only our site but for our community. So thank you. I think it's the best thing we can say at this point. Well,
No problem.
yeah, it is a problem for you, but we really appreciate
Yeah, hang in there.
it. Yes. So I don't think I unless Dan Bicknell joined. Dan, have you joined?
No, I think he's someplace warm.
Okay. Well, all right. So, EGLE updates. Are there any EGLE updates
There are.
but we don't have Chris Svoboda online, do we?
No, but I do have the updates.
Okay.
He sent me an email and
Okay.
here's his updates.
Okay. So, I'm going to turn it over to Roger to uh, give us the EGLE updates. Thanks.
Yeah, I got this a little an hour before the meeting, so uh, and the new monitoring plans, nothing to report. Sampling results from last surface water testing, nothing to report. Although we do have the surface water results because I downloaded it from the RIDE system, and I'll go over that in my chair update. Um, New plan for the Western area, nothing new to report there. New contingency municipal water hookup plan, nothing new to report there. The new marsh area feasibility study, we do have something to report because I got that on the 14th. Chris sent it along. Again, he didn't send it. I had to download it from this remedial information data exchange, the RIDE system. So I'll go over that in my chair update. However, I do want to point this out that EGLE is obligated to respond to the feasibility study by March 13th. So they had 30 days basically. So, um, well, 60 days, I'm sorry. So if anybody has more to say on that, and you can weigh in on that during my chair update later. Um, the EGLE has to have your responses no later than Friday, February 14th, a month before they have to respond to Gelman. Again, I'll cover that in my update. Update on MS4 violation and enforcing the elimination, blah, blah, blah. Nothing new to report there. WRD permitting discharge in NPDS, nothing new to report. Item H, apparently there's this update. So I can I guess I wonder if I can put this much in the chat so you don't have to go to the link. Um, Maybe I'll try doing that, see if that works. Control C, that way it saves some people some time. There's my chat. B. And I think that does it. Let me
So
see.
this is item H,
Yes.
the GSI down gradient work plan. Okay.
Yeah, I tried to put it in the chat. I didn't know if it went through. And then I think that's it for his update.
Okay.
Any questions? I'll go back to the agenda.
Oh, okay, that's you telling me to move it along?
Well,
Okay.
I mean, you've probably
Let's
got time to.
actually, does anybody have any questions for Roger
Yeah,
about the EGLE information that he just shared? He is going to go into more detail in the chair report at
yeah.
the end of the meeting.
I will say that Chris has been good about sending his updates ahead of time. It'd be nice if we could get it to send it a little bit more ahead of
Sooner.
than an hour or two before the meeting. So I could share it with other board members and maybe some people who are more interested in this
Yeah.
than others. In particular, like you, Vince, I think this is the kind of thing, some of these items are in your bailiwick. But it is good to have that kind of back and forth. But we just need to improve it. So, but it's heading in the right direction. So let's, keep that going.
At least the information's flowing.
Yeah. Yeah. At least on the state level,
Yeah.
Anyway, it's
Okay. Well, so let's move on then to the old business action items. The Washington County, is there any information on in the intervener update?
well, Joseph is on the screen. I don't know if there he is. Okay.
I'm here. I'm currently driving, but no, I mean, I will be stationary soon. I just need to plug my car in because I need to go drive all over the state tomorrow and need juice. So,
Yusuf, we could stop and come back. You just break in and let us know when it's a good time for you to talk, okay?
that works. Yeah, that works.
Okay,
Thanks.
let's do that.
Bye.
Okay. We were wondering, we did the exec committee, various people met with the Washington County Water Resource Commissioner, and we did invite her, Gretchen Driscoll, to come to this meeting. I don't know if Ms. Driscoll or anyone from her office is here. We would love to introduce you if you are. Okay. Yes,
and,
James.
I did talk to, I did hear from Commissioner Driscoll today, and she was unwell. So she had the COVID as well. So she expressed her regrets not being able to join us this evening. But it was a good meeting last month, and I think we can establish a good working relationship going forward.
Okay, great. I'm glad that you shared that. Good for everybody to know. I hope she can attend in a future meeting, because I'm sure that CART members would love to get some feeling of knowing her.
Well, next month is a quarterly meeting, so that would be a good time to.
That would be a great one for her to come to and encourage that. Yes.
And I advised her of that as well.
Yeah, tell her, because the state people will be there, etc. So, okay. Washington County. Oh, Vince, sorry.
Yeah, so I attended a meeting, the CART group with Driscoll, and she's very green. She's not. She doesn't think of herself as a engineer type. That she's kind of work her way into the job, and it may take a little while to get her up to speed. But she's got a staff, and some of the staff are quite good. So hopefully, she can tap into them and get something going. Unfortunately, I feel like, we got groundwater issues on the west side that very problematic at 20 part per billion, and it's going up. We have a Slauson Middle School there, and there's lots of houses that have wet basements. In fact, one of the houses across the street from Slauson has a very wet basement, and the drain or the pipe goes right by the house. So they have major water issues, and I'm afraid that contamination will eventually, percolate into people's basements and expose them. So I hope we can move things farther along than we have in the past. I think and plus, not to take anything away from the wells that are at risk, because that's a really serious issue as well. And we need to work on this to deal with the issues. I think I saw an article that the city of Ann Arbor is starting to consider alternative water sources. I'll have to look into that to see. That was just a side comment in an article. So CARD was instrumental in keeping the city from going to the Great Lakes Water Authority.
Well, that's a little bit different. That's more under the city of Ann Arbor than the Water Resources
I'm just saying
Commission.
the city was talking about getting
Well,
it as a water source, and now that may be happening again. I don't know. I have to read up on that.
okay.
Thanks.
All right. So, is there anything new about the Washington County Health Department or EGLE and homeowner well sampling? Does anybody have any information on that? Okay. Not hearing any other issues people want to bring up that's relevant for the Washington County or Ann Arbor Township?
Rita, here,
Yes.
I haven't raised my hand, but
Oh, I didn't see you. You didn't show up.
No, I didn't raise it. I'm looking there. I just raised it. But, I just wonder if they're only going to join now quarterly as well, because they weren't with us last month and not here this month. And they used to come every month. So maybe it's just a quarterly thing now for everyone other than the activist and Congresswoman Dingell and Aaron Donnelly. And thank you guys for coming. But
All the people that really care about this issue.
yeah, no.
Well, we could check that out with Kristen. Would you like me to do that? To ask her if she's not going to come?
I don't know. No, it's you
just
guys,
leave it.
Yeah.
Okay. So we can just leave it.
We may have to. We may have to visit a commissioners meeting. Have public comment during their commissioners meetings.
Right. And remember, there's that environmental council, the Washington County Yusuf is on it, I believe.
Yeah, I'm on it.
And there's Yusuf.
Yeah, no, I'm here. I did mention that at a few meetings ago that we do have the environmental council as a venue for bringing stuff forward in collaboration with CARD. So I would definitely encourage you guys to do that. And I also believe I offered at a previous meeting that if there's anything in terms of official updates or communications that you guys want me to relay back to the board, I'm happy to do that. I would ask that they be kept concise enough to deliver in a couple minutes. But I'm happy to, deliver updates. I am the official liaison from the county board to this body. And so, and I was just reappointed to that. I have been, that's why I've been coming to all the meetings because we do have like an official appointments process even for CARD. And so I was appointed back in 2023 and that's why I've been coming to the meeting since then. And I got reappointed this year. So, yeah, so there is an official time on every agenda for me to give an update about what happens at the different committees that I'm appointed to. So if folks want me to relay anything back, I have given updates in the past about what happens at these meetings, but if you guys have something more specific you want me to report on, I'm happy to do that.
Are you still driving?
Yes, but I'm almost stationary, and I can also speak to some legal updates just from memory.
But before you leave, before you leave the environmental council topic, are there any positions open still on the environmental council?
That is a good question. I don't believe so. We worked pretty hard to fill the remaining spots, and I think that they're all full now, but that is something that comes up pretty much every year. There's a staggered appointment schedule, and so pretty much every fall we do a round of reappointments. I think there's 7 or 9 members, and I think we do like 4 one year and then 3 the next year. Something like that. It's like a staggered, odd and even year type thing.
Because it might be good if there was openings to just let us know in the meeting.
When did they meet? Do they have a regular schedule?
That sounds good. Definitely, yeah. And I think in terms of like the meetings themselves, the chair currently is Michelle Dietrich, and she's, she basically puts the agendas together, and I think would be very open to CARD giving a presentation to the Environmental Council, just updating them on what's going on. So like we had different groups come and basically give these presentations to us over the course of the last couple of years. So I would just get on her radar. And I would add to that too, that we now have Beth Gibbons, who's our resiliency officer. So we now have a staff member that is dedicated to, these types of issues. And Beth is hiring, we created 2 positions, one for the resiliency officer position, and then one for support position for the resiliency office. And they come to the environmental council meetings, and they're basically staff for the environmental council and the board focused on these issues. So I think Beth would be a good person to loop in on some of this as well. And she is at those meetings, so you would kind of do both at the same time. So I highly encourage that. I think it would be good to have you guys, or, a subset of the group or the whole group come to an environmental council meeting to present.
When's the next meeting?
We just canceled one because of Treasurer McClary's memorial. So I believe it's the last or the 4th Tuesday of every month at 5:30. I'm going totally from memory on that, but I'm now parked and I need to plug my car in, but let me just look really quick.
Go.
Okay, yeah, it's March 25th is the next meeting, and it's at 5 o'clock, and it's all virtual.
Great.
So just I'm gonna go on mute for like 2 minutes, and then I'll come back on, and whenever's a good time, I can talk about legal stuff.
Just give a shout when you're ready. Okay, so that was interesting. It certainly sounds like something we could do. Where am I?
Other issues?
I think we did other issues. We did just that he happened to be there. It came up. Okay, we were at the city of Ann Arbor.
Ann Arbor Township. On mine.
I asked about. Well, okay, maybe I didn't say.
Ann Arbor Township, we have nothing new to report.
Okay. All right.
Who's going to be the Ann Arbor Township rep? Are you still going to stick around and do that?
Yes. I don't know that they're looking to have another rep, but since I was planning on attending these anyway, I will continue to be the rep.
Great.
Continuity is good.
Great. And how about Scioto Township? I know I asked before, but let's ask again. Anything
No,
from
you didn't ask before. I don't think, but okay. Yes, there is one thing I will report on, which was a PFAS detection that was noted on Dino Drive. This site was a building that had been previously occupied by, it's called MTI, Gelman subsidiary. And this was a baseline environmental assessment. The detection came from a temporary monitoring well. Oh, do you have it, Roger? Do you have the site?
I'm going to look it up. Dino Drive.
253 Dino Drive. There were samples collected from 12 locations. This was in December of the 2024. 11 were non-detect, but one well had detections above the laboratory reporting limits. So they've reported it.
What was the number on Dino Drive? What was the number?
It's 253 Dino Drive.
253. Okay.
There is a park located to the south. You can see the cul-de-sac. Yeah, you're to the south. No. Go further south. There's a cul-de-sac and there is a park, a preserved area down here. I'm, of course, pointing on my screen. Nobody can see it. But
this is right in this area here, right?
Yes, that's it. So we've been aware of this for maybe 6 weeks. We just got the formal notice from EGLE yesterday. About 6 weeks ago, when we first heard about it, I sent a series of questions to Dan Wild, and he has responded to those questions. One of the questions I asked him was, did they do any testing for dioxane? And his response was no. They didn't see an indication for that. And so EGLE has told the township that they are willing to conduct a Zoom session with the township on this issue and actions going forward, which I suspect the township is going to want to take them up on this offer. I don't know yet. We haven't discussed it. This will be in our board packet for our Tuesday township board meeting. We'll discuss it there. Our township board is aware, and I sent all this out to them yesterday. The PFAS Action Response Team, MPART, has been notified, and the site will be posted on their webpage. Those are the basic facts that I have.
Okay.
I know, Rita, you have more knowledge and expertise dealing with PFAS than a lot of us do.
Can you just give us the base, like what made them test it in the first place? Why were they testing?
Baseline environmental assessment, which these are routinely done when there's going to be proposed building or a sale of a building, and so I don't know exactly what at this building. I don't know exactly what's going on at the building. We'll find out.
Okay. So I just wanted to know what does the concentration, if you know.
Okay, so
sorry.
It's PFA XA at 2 PPT.
Okay, parts per trillion. Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, so they must have tested for several PFAS.
Yes, they did.
Congeners. Okay, great. Well, not great that they found it, but I don't know. You know, there's thousands of them. I'm not sure what PFA-XA is. So Okay. Anybody else have any
No.
questions?
I do.
I don't have any more comments. It's just
Again, I don't know, Rita, maybe your screen isn't big enough to see me on the screen here, but I got to find the hand signal here.
yeah, it helps a lot because it pings and then I see it, but I don't see you. If you wave your hand, Roger, would be better than if you just put it up. If you
Okay.
can't find the symbol.
So
That's on
the
the
thing I'm going to look up to see what did MTI do, and is it anything related to what happened in Medi Drive over here? Because Medi Drive is where they did find dioxin. Was where the company that was doing sampling for Gelman for dioxin had their offices. Now we don't know the relationship there, but that was before they had water and sewer out there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, that would be good, Roger.
yeah, so I have some information about that, and I'm surprised that who were we talking with for the Dino Drive issue? Was that a county person, state person, EGLE?
It was someone from EGLE,
Okay,
Dan Wild.
yeah. I mean, the distance from there to there is you know, a little over half a mile.
Yeah.
But I want to find out what MTI did there besides have PFAS coating. Of course, we know that Gelman used PFAS in some of their filters,
Yes.
and they didn't find it in a large enough quantity, apparently, when the EPA came in to say that it's a contamination still at the Gelman site, but um, PFAS is about 1,000 times more dangerous than dioxin generally because it bioaccumulates. And if Gelman used 850,000 pounds of dioxin, did they use 850 pounds of PFAS? Because it might be on the same scale. Anyway, those are thoughts that need to be considered. Go back to the agenda. Anybody have any questions on this before I leave the Google Earth?
Yeah, Rogers, Mike, was that a detection of dioxin in the somewhat distant past, or is that recently?
Not
I couldn't
recent.
tell if that was historic to the discovery of the original dioxin plume or what.
It was original.
Okay.
I'm not sure when the sampling for that stopped, but there used to be a rest area right here off 94. And they closed that down. There was speculation by Gelman that that dioxin was from trucks emptying their radiators at the rest area back when dioxin was used in radiator fluid. But of course, they closed down the rest area, so maybe there's no dioxin left there, but I haven't seen any sampling from that for decades.
Mhm.
Anybody else? Back to the agenda.
Yusuf
Rita, you're mute, Rita.
and Yusuf said he's back on now, but no rush, Rita, whenever you want to.
That was a good time.
I think now's a great time. Hi, Yusuf.
You got to unmute too, Yusuf.
Yeah, I know. All
I
right,
get
yeah,
to see you too.
I know. Yeah, now that I'm parked, I can turn my camera on. So I know that you're asking about the intervener stuff in particular. I think at this point, I don't know what the last update that I gave you guys was, but at this point, it seems like the county is not as excited about pursuing the intervener path because it's not really leading us to where we need to go. And so we're more interested at this point in, doubling down on our pursuit of our health department public health code filing. So as you know, we issued that we entered that complaint against Gelman in 2023 mid-year, and they filed a motion to dismiss, of course, that fall. And then later on, we filed a response, and the court denied Gelman's motion to dismiss. And then more recently, Gelman appealed the denial, but basically just made the same arguments that they had before. And so we're currently awaiting a date to be scheduled for oral arguments in the Court of Appeals. So that is currently the route that we're pursuing and that we feel the best about, is basically using our public health code authority, rather than trying to pursue the intervener route, because it just hasn't been yielding as much. And for this one, we have full control over the case because we're the only ones in it. We're not joining a case with the state and others. It's just the county under the public health code authority that's pursuing it. So, like I said, we feel a lot better about that. Happy to answer any questions that folks might have about that case. But that is sort of where we're putting all of our effort now. We're sort of shifting to that strategy.
That's good. Joseph, I might talk to you about this because it relates to the county side of it. The ride system that EGLE uses for gathering all the information and sharing all the information is very difficult to download from in any kind of large quantity.
Okay.
You might be able to help us get EGLE to download all of the ride documents, several thousand of them, in mass, one time only, so that then we can keep up with the monthly updates.
So you're saying that it would be helpful to get like everything downloaded now at once, so that as monthly updates come out, it's easier to just grab one at a time rather than.
Well, to download, I was trying to download 100 of them over several days before Christmas. And a lot of them were failing, and that wasn't working, and it was going to take me the better part of many months to download one or a few at a time. Where I know it can. It's in a computer. You can think of it as there's a database out there, and they should be able to select all of the documents relating to Gelman, put it in one big zip file. Or some zip files if you want, and then put it on. We'll drive up there with a hard disk and have them transfer it over, and then we'll have it. And the county would have it for their lawsuits, and what the community would have it then going forward before this goes away. And instead of getting bits and pieces from the EPA's investigation and overlapping, we would have basically what EGLE has that's public, and so I want to plant that seed because that's something I want to work.
Would you mind sending an email to me and CCing Ashley Hall explaining that, and then I will talk to Ashley about making a request for that information. Okay. So Ashley's email is Hall, Halla.
Okay. Somebody else can look that up. I mean, I can't do it right now and share the screen.
Yeah, it's halla@washtenaw.org. And so yeah, just if you could summarize that, send it to me, and then I'll work on that.
All right. I'll send you a follow-up email to get all that information. Appreciate it.
Cool.
And then we can get more people involved.
Sounds good. I'll put Ashley's email in the chat as well, so you have that.
Great. Great, Yusuf. Thanks. That's a lot of information from the county. Thanks so much for being the liaison to the Environmental Council and for all of the other interesting information. I wasn't aware, for example, of the legal case that you described. So we appreciate it, and we're glad to have you as our liaison.
Happy to continue doing it. Just so you guys know, I also am the liaison to the Huron River Watershed Council, and I'm on the statutory drain board, so I get to deal with all the drains and stuff like that as well. So water.
You may be the only person that works with water at all of its different levels, where it goes.
Exactly. All water all the time. The only non-water directly. Well, I am on Park Fish, and then I'm on SEMCOG too, and those both touch water as well. So
okay, yeah, I guess you're not on the sanitary sewer yet, though.
I don't think that there's the city and the townships and stuff have sanitary sewer stuff, but the county doesn't manage that.
Right.
You're a busy man. Thank you. Anybody else have any more questions or comments for Yusuf about the county? All right, well, I think we'll move on back to the agenda. We were at the city of Ann Arbor, and I did think that Aaron was here at least earlier.
Yep,
Aaron,
I'm here.
Oh, great. So Aaron, do you have any kind of updates for us?
I had a small update, just a staffing update that we have a new public services area administrator that started. Gosh, I think he's on week 2 now. His name is Jordan Roberts, and he came from the city of Dearborn. And he's been told by multiple people within the city that he needs to get up to speed on Gelman. So he'll be doing a lot of that over the next few months and weeks.
Can we
I was
help
also,
with that?
sorry, go ahead.
Can we help with that, with the update?
Yeah, I'll offer that to him and see if that would be helpful. Right, I know right now he's like drinking from a fire hose, so it might be down the line a bit.
Yeah, before he makes any important decisions, I guess.
Sure.
And you said his official title is City Services Administrator?
Public Services Area Administrator. Okay. So he's the new Brian Steglitz, basically, if you interacted with him.
Yes. Great.
PSAA.
Yes.
Great. No, that's good to know. Great. Anything else?
I would say in general, so regarding like the wet basement issue, if Vince or if somebody wants to set a meeting with me kind of outside this larger meeting, I'd be interested in learning more about the specific 2019, 2020, and I'm familiar with Rita's study. And yeah, I guess specifically curious if there were issues with how the previous study was done or if there's kind of additional concerns there. So yeah, Vince, I don't know if that would be, if you want to shoot me an email, I'd be interested in learning more about that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Any comments or questions for Aaron and Vince?
So Aaron, the state did do some near surface water testing, and that has been updated on our map of where the concentrations are. And so the one concerns we have is the one at near Slauson Middle School on 8th Street has gone up to 22 part per billion. And the pond in West Park has gone up to 2 part per billion. And the drain itself has dropped some. I forget what the number is, but its high was 50 part per billion. And Rita and Bob Bailey put together an article that they submitted and was accepted that proposed that 150 part per billion in a basement could be dangerous and ill-advised. And so we have a lot of wet basements on the west side there. And we're concerned that that could be a real problem for homeowners who are in wet areas and having the contaminated water go into their basement and evaporate. In fact, this is the first time that's ever been published in the journal, as far as I know. it's a new mechanism for exposure that they're concerned about. And so Bob Bailey is a former PhD chemist and Rita, former toxicologist, and I authored one of the articles with them, and they've both got published, and so it's a real concern we have that this could be a situation where we're, years from now, maybe we might have real issues with that. I'd like to get on top of it. Thanks.
Yep.
I think I heard Erin say she would be willing to and interested in meeting. Did I hear that right from you?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna send you an email.
Yeah.
Great.
Thanks for coming, by the way.
Yes, thank you. It's wonderful
Yes,
to have you attend from the city of Ann Arbor and get updates from you and know that the information is flowing both ways between CARD and the city of Ann Arbor. Is Patty on? I don't think I saw Patty McCall on.
I don't
Patty,
think
you
she's
there?
on.
Okay. All right. I'm not sure about item 2. Could we be sampling for 1,4-dioxane at 415 West Washington site and Eaton Well? So
I just
anybody,
added it because we talked about it last month. If it's ever looked into, that it's, didn't we mention it last month that
I remember we talked about it, but I don't remember where it went.
I think maybe Patty said or someone said they would look into it, or Roger, was it you that thought maybe?
I don't remember. I don't recall.
Okay, well, I can delete it.
I mean, the issue was 415 West Washington. Is that the old building?
The old county building.
Right. They're tearing down currently.
Yeah, and they did. I remember when we were concerned about that before, they did sample for dioxin there, and it wasn't a concern at that time. Edenwell, of course, is maybe I should pull this up now that we're
I
talking.
remember what it was. We wondered, since the wells are there, can we just occasionally test them? Or I think that was what it was. And maybe Patty said through Tetra Tech they could.
Well, there has been some
the old Eaton building there off of let's see, it's 3rd and Liberty, kind of right in here someplace. Is this the Eaton building right here?
To ask EGLE if they could access those wells and test them.
When this building was converted, they did testing around. So there's wells, the Eaton wells, and those are still on the database, but I don't think they've been sampled in recent years. Let's double check real quick here. Wells.
Well, I did discover some contamination flowing towards 415 from the Argus building area.
Yeah, here's some of the Eaton wells here.
Yeah. There's a lot of concern about homeowners potentially having those contaminations get into their basement as well. And they've asked for a remediation and cleanup of that. And some of it's flowing into 415 as well, and under 415.
So that was back in 2007, and they're all non-detects at 1 part per billion. And then West Washington would have been this building across from the see, is even showing the right here, this building here.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So there's some contamination on that site that they're concerned about.
There wasn't any dioxin that when they tested it when they were.
Well, there's other chemicals like TCE and I forget.
Yeah, the other things. There are definitely other things there.
Yeah.
But again, that's not that far away from my 2004. Here we go. Here's the 2D plumes. So this is an estimate of where dioxin might be heading east. The yellow is an estimate. The other colors are what Gelman thinks the readings are at different levels. 7.2 and 100 more parts per billion heading east. And again, there's some surface water sampling here, but we don't have the permanent groundwater sampling that Dan Bicknell asked for way back a decade ago, probably now. To have permanent shallow groundwater testing in this area. The shallowest well in that area, the last shallow well that can test near surface is NW82S. And I don't have the 2022 through 24 data in yet. We should be getting in the next couple months. But this is what it was last time it was plotted. So 270 to 300 parts per billion heading that way. And as Vince points out that there were near surface groundwater. Let's see, where is that? I think it's one of these files I haven't opened here yet.
Wells or
No, the near surface groundwater plumes are in this, this area surrounding where Allen Creek comes together. So there's fingers that reach back along Allen Creek that are within 10 or 20 feet at the surface. And it's near where these monitoring wells are in the drain itself. But I don't think anybody's actually counted how many homes are in that plume area that's within 10 or 20 feet of the surface. We have to do that. That'd be a good exercise for someone to do.
So I think that that number might be in the EPA site assessment. I'm not dead positive on that, but I think so, because that was one of their concerns.
Right.
They had various concerns about, then how many homes in DeSoto Township and wells and all that.
Yeah, EPA was very concerned about exposures to homeowners.
And well, maybe they didn't do the shallow wells though. Come to think of it, I think they just did.
I don't recall seeing that.
Yeah, I think you might be right, because I think they did. They put in the number. They were concerned about how many people lived in the city of Ann Arbor and were dependent on water from Barton Pond and the plumes moving towards the river.
They do their 2 or 3 or 4 mile radius.
Right. So I think you're right. I think I was incorrect there.
Yeah, I think that was, they're not ready to focus that much on that because it's an emerging pathway. And your research on it is like, the first ones that talk about this alternate way of dioxin could be going with the water vapor and things like that. So
yeah, I don't think they like it, but well, they didn't. Yeah, it was not.
It's science,
Yeah.
Science can be scary.
Nah. Better to know.
Better to know, for sure.
Always better to know. All right, yeah. So anything else for the city of Ann Arbor? I know we're all staying concerned about it, but it was great having Aaron from the city to get us up to speed on where the thinking is, and that there's a new public health services administrator. Executive board reports. Okay, we're moving on. The executive board reports. The first item is the Yale Superfund Research Program Center, Research Center, and there's nothing new I have to report. I think that they're probably gritting their teeth with all the junk from Trump. I think that it's going to be very problematic. They've been told, what I did know is they've been told that there's something called carryover funds, that if you have some unspent money from one year, that you can carry it over into the next fiscal year. And they've been told that's not going to be allowed. So that's all I know in terms of news from them. They're preparing their application, but the application may be closed. It may be that there will be no more Superfund research centers, or no new funding of research centers, all kinds of stuff. So we'll see. I'll keep you informed when I know more, but that's all I know. How about the subcommittee report from the Allens Creek MS4 violation? Says Jack's not here. James or Roger?
I think that's what the meeting with Water Resources Commissioner was about. First, to build the relationship, and then I think maybe follow up.
Right.
Roger may have some thoughts on that, but that was kind of one of the reasons we met with Gretchen Driscoll.
Yes, great. And then the executive board did meet last Friday, and one of the major items of discussion, or I would say the major item of discussion, is collecting nominations for replacing positions, leadership positions in CARD, and in particular, Beth is retiring. This is firm, and what we really hope and need and ask of the membership is if somebody would be willing to come forward and take on the secretarial position. I think it's a wonderful opportunity if you've been wondering how to get more involved. We talked about, making sure that we have sort of some geographic distribution and age distribution, some young people. But please, I don't know if other executive committee members want to comment on our discussion or ideas.
Yeah, whoever it is, it's going to shrink our geographic distribution because we won't have a representative in North. Where there's a series of 1,4-dioxane contaminations there, of course.
Yeah.
Well, so, Marcy is on twice. Is that? See,
Marcia Haddocks, you mean? Yeah, she might be.
On the screen that's not already in a position someplace.
Well, it just would be really wonderful. And so, Beth, when is your date of resignation?
I'll stay till we're supposed to have elections every October, so I thought let's give it till October, and if anybody knows anybody, that'll give you guys time to find somebody. In the past, Roger used to joke with people that you had to find your own replacement, but it's too late because I've already moved, so I really can't. You guys are going to have to find it for me, unfortunately.
Wait a minute, aren't you in town for another couple of weeks?
Yeah, no, just till this weekend. But yeah, so I mean, I love doing it, but I really want to get more involved with the problem we have in North Carolina is, I don't want to say larger, but it's probably not a larger. It's just we're drinking the contamination now.
Yeah, it's more immediate for.
I'm drinking 2 parts per billion of dioxane, so in the municipal water. So yeah, not that you guys have a problem, but yeah.
It makes perfect sense.
You're gonna write the job description out so that we make sure that we get somebody that.
I have. It's in the G drive, Roger. I've already done it.
So, yes, there are lots of people to help with this position. It would just be really great, though, if somebody, at least if you have any interest, if you want to find out what's it like, this is the time to seek out that information with phone calls and with, asking any of us what we think, and Beth can give you a few pointers. But we're trying to make it easier for everybody, so it's not like we're wanting to dump something on someone, but we really do need to bring some more people into the leadership of CARD. And
I'll work real closely with whoever does take it on and, make sure they're up to speed and feel comfortable. Yeah, it's not that difficult.
yeah.
So thank
So
you
if
for
you
all the kind words, you guys. I've loved doing it, but I just, yeah, and I want to get more involved with the midterm elections now. I'm so upset about everything that's going on in the country. And so,
Yeah.
well, you've been terrific for us, and
oh,
Yeah,
we do
super.
appreciate you. But it is time. How many years is it that?
Well, I moved 2.5 years ago. So it'll
Yes.
be 3 years in the fall. So that's why I thought
That's right.
the next elections, we'll have an election in October. And if we don't find anyone, AI can do the minutes and you guys can divvy up the other stuff I do, which is just take attendance and do the agenda. And so
Anybody that skips a meeting, they have to be secretary of the next meeting. Is that
okay.
Yeah,
Well,
and then of course I want to offload the chair to someone too, but I don't think I could write a job description. And it would scare people away.
Well, Roger, I think that no one's going to replace you.
Well,
there could be someone who will be chair, but they will probably do it in their own
it's going to be
style.
AI. It's going to be AI that replaces me.
Oh gosh, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Anyway, and here, okay, so any other comments about replacements, or anyone want to just even jump forward? Anyway, we do hope some people are interested in joining the leadership. So it's time for the chair report, Roger.
Can I jump in real quick?
Oops, I'm sorry, James. Go ahead.
I think transition discussions are important. I think it's going to be a series of conversations we're going to be having over time. Because I think this issue is going to be with us for quite a while yet. So it's not something that's going to happen overnight, because this issue is not going away overnight. But I think the current board is certainly aware of the circumstances and will be continuing to have conversations, but we're still be looking for ideas as well. To anyone on this call and anyone interested to reach out to us.
Yeah, and it's not going to be like we're starting from scratch. We have an infrastructure. We have tools. We have information flows. We have cohesiveness within the group. We have support of local governments. It's not like we have to do everything as if we're just grassroots. So, but this is a community issue that it deserves continuity, because we have to be as persistent as the compound we're trying to get cleaned up. It's going to last several generations. All right, so here's my update. I'll just start off really quick with the surface water samples that I was able to download from the RIDE system. And this is a quick summary of the results. Vince, you may have already seen this. I don't know. Do I need to make that bigger? And again, there's a link for it up above here. That'll be it's in the chair notes. That's also already listed on the agenda. You can follow the links and get to all this information, but it has more details, of course. I guess the ones that were surprising are the ones that I've highlighted in red here, that they're, above the 7.2 guideline. And the fact that Third Sister Lake is consistently in the 40s is that's surface water. So that communicates with the groundwater and communicates with surface water as it runs off. So if we still have 40 parts per billion in the third sister lake right next to the Gelman site, that's not going away anytime soon. And then the Allen Creek are about half those values. So, yeah, we just have to pay attention and do what we can to minimize that. What I've been working on mostly this last couple weeks is the marshy area feasibility study that we got. Well, it came to EGLE on the 14th. I think I got it a week ago. So I've done a couple weeks worth of work over the last week. And I'm going to give you a little briefing on it here. But it's this feasibility study has the most detailed depiction of the marshy area problem so far. And included in that is finally the releasing the secret sampling data that was withheld back in 2017 to 2024. And from that, I was able to, it wasn't shared directly as a spreadsheet, but it was shared in a image PDF. So I was able to scrape the data out of that and make a spreadsheet of that. And that's also in the links in the coming slides. So I'm going to just jump to these are the highlights of it. You can read about this later, but I'm going to jump to the report itself and go through it step by step and show you some of the work I've done as a result of that. I've got to find here it is. This is the report. And let's see, I might be able to make that a little bigger so it fills up the screen a little better. By the way, that's what it looks like apparently when you're walking through the pathways in the marshy area. This probably used to be cattails in the old days. Now it's something called Phragmites that you see along the roadsides in any ponds, and it's an invasive species. Apparently it doesn't destroy dioxin though. So this is, you can download this report. I got it directly from RIDE and then made a link to it in the that you can get to from the agenda and through my chair update. Back this off a little bit so we can see better. So basically they're studying the marshy area. And let me jump down to the maps here. They're characterizing the marshy area, but as also by different levels of formation, soil formation, aquifer formation underneath it. And it's quite a thorough study. There's a few glitches, few anomalies that I'll go over later that I have questions on. But this is the one that you can read over. And if you have any concerns that you want to pass along to EGLE, you have to do it by the 14th or the 13th, I guess, of February, so they can respond to Gelman by the 15th of March or the 14th of March. So this is the site, the overall site. Here's the marshy area, just this little piece here. It's about 5 acres, just north of the Gelman site. I will point out this on this screen that this is the original Gelman site here, this rectangle here. This was not part of the original Gelman site. This was contamination that ran off from the original Gelman site. Then I think was ADP owned part of this over here, and Gelman had to buy that as a result of a lawsuit from ADP for contaminating the property. I'm not sure who owned the marsh area at that time, but EGLE now depicts this as Gelman property. But this is not the original Gelman property. The original Gelman property is right here. So to say, like back in 1996 when the legislature passed the environmental audit bill that said if you have contamination on your site that you're managing in your property, then you don't have to disclose everything about it because you should be managing. But once it gets off site, then you have to disclose everything. Well, this was off site, the original property. Now, Paul and Danaher will say, well, it's not part of our original property. Our original property is part of that. But they're conducting business as if they're still Gelman Sciences. Well, the Gelman Sciences site did not include that. So I think people need to remember that. So why did it take 5 years? Well, maybe 3 to 5 years for the data about this marshy area investigation to be released here in beginning of 2025, when some of that sampling was done back in 2017. So anyway, that's my gripe about that. This is the study's depiction of the marsh area itself. It's this kind of odd-shaped thing, and in here we have different kinds of wells that are they're not really wells, they're borings of different types. This APS is a technique that can get groundwater sampling from surface down to 50, 60 feet. And in very, very fine detail, like within every foot, if you want to. I'm not sure why the marsh area goes off into a point like this. Maybe there's a runoff here to a swale area north of the Saginaw Forest. I don't know, but generally this is where the dioxane is, and there's some wells in here that you see with these white and blue symbols that are been monitoring wells since the early days. The purple ones are their boringness that they did, and they have some maps that show that in different ways. This is another type of boring that does normal soil sample boring. These brown squares show where those are. And then they go into a cross section showing, here's the map of the cross section here in the upper corner, kind of west to east. And then a lot more detail of the lithology underneath the marsh area than we've ever had data to show before. What's interesting about this is that there's very few clay layers. The clay is this kind of a purplish red color here. There's some here and there's some here. But there's no laterally extensive clay layers under the marshy area all the way down to, this would be what, 98 to 68, so 30 some feet deep. Here are all the readings for those two types of wells. Some of them are co-located, like the SB 32 is same place as APS 059. And the color coding tells what concentration it is. Now, it's interesting, you have to pay attention on this because the soil borings are in the red font. Those are in parts per million. I'll zoom in here so you can see these better. So these values are in parts per million. So you say 8.27. Well, that's not very high, but that's parts per million. That's 8,270 parts per billion. Now, on the other side, where they're actually sampling the soil, they do report it in parts per billion. But again, as you see, there's dioxane in all these different layers. There's even dioxane apparently in the clay layer, which is not supposed to happen. And some of these are hybrid areas, like they're clay and silt. And they still have some high concentrations, 8,000 here, 17,000 here, 9,000 here. Anyway, so we found a lot of data here that we finally got a better picture of what's going on in the marsh area. But it took all this time to do it. So that's the west to east. There's a similar one south to north, or north to south in this case. Yeah, I don't know why they didn't do south to north, because the previous cross sections, the simple ones that were done over the years, were always south to north, but this one they decided to do north to south for some reason. Well, okay, it's hard to do the compare then. I'll show you what I had to do to make that work. Again, some silt and clay, but even in the silt and clay layers, there are concentrations. So basically, there's dioxin. There could be dioxin pretty much anywhere in this marshy area. Now, the really high concentrations are in this one little area here at the groundwater, for the groundwater monitoring. But these other ones are still pretty high. Slow it over here so you can see these other ones, it can still be 720 parts per billion. For some reason, they chose to show red at 7,200 parts per billion. So all of these would be a concern if they were in your backyard.
Hey, Roger, I want to ask you a question real quick, if I could, about the marsh area.
Okay, but you got to be quick.
Oh, yeah, I'll be quick. So, Rita and I talked to somebody who actually worked at Gelman when he was 18 years old.
Can we talk about this later?
Well, I'm just saying, I wonder if he was dumping contamination out the back. With that.
Yeah, but he wasn't dumping it in the marsh area because this was not their property. The marsh area, I'll cover how it got into the marsh area later.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, so this is the new plume map. This is a plume map, the latest plume map we have for the marsh area. So it's basically 2025 plume map, and I'll show you the comparison between this and the prior plume maps. Now that's in the groundwater. Here are the soil samples. And again, it's interesting that here they only talk about this one is kind of strange because here they did switch to micrograms per liter. I think I just misspoke. That's groundwater. This is also groundwater. Although it's got so just different symbols, yeah. So even though they got the same APS, they changed the marker on it for some reason. Anyway, this is so this is the deeper contamination that's 20 or more feet deep. And I'm sorry, this is shallow. This is the up to 20 feet deep for this one. And this one's 20 or more feet deep here. And the shape of the plume is different for that. It's kind of looks like Michigan, actually. Then they go into concentration of the soil, and then we're back to micrograms per kilogram. In other words, these the values here would be instead of 7 micrograms per kilogram, you can read that as 7,000 parts per billion. If you see red here, it's 7,000 parts per billion, but it's in the soils. So their thinking is that, well, it's in the soils at 7,000, then it's going to be something less when it's in the rock, in the groundwater, right next to it. But I prefer to think of things as being on the same scale, so you're not 1,000 off when you're looking at the number. You look at 7, you say, well, that's not very much. But if you see 7,000, you say, well, if that's going to be the groundwater, I don't want my groundwater at 7,000. Anyway, that's the way they do things sometimes. And here's the soil concentrations greater than 20 feet deep. It's interesting that the soil concentration greater than 20 feet deep are in a different location than when it's shallow. So you would think that in soils, of course, you're going to get more near the surface within 20 feet, right? You're going to get more of these. But over here, somehow those shallower contaminations made it down to the deeper layers. And how much deeper can it go?
Well, actually, 1,4-dioxane is known to migrate very well.
Oh, sure.
From soil into groundwater.
Absolutely.
That's part of the problem.
Want to adhere
That's
to
the problem.
soil particles. It will go where
Right.
the water goes.
Right.
Which is another question I have. Why do they pretend that you should be using parts per million instead of parts per billion? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And so what we're looking at here, I think, is the just another view of this with some numbers showing on the screen itself. So you can see some really high concentrations, 17,000 parts per billion, which is higher than what the old maps were showing. The most recent maps that like 2021, I think, was the last one where they could show a plume map. But here's one outside the marshy area that was 18,000. So it's not only migrating down, it's migrating off the site, apparently. And then these are one of the solutions here. I think this is the phyto, what this is. Yeah, remediation area. And they're gonna have a test area within that. And basically what they're doing is they plant trees, but they don't just plant the trees, they put them in they make a hole, a cylinder kind of thing, and they plant the tree farther down so the roots can grow down another 10 feet than for what they would normally. And so this is the area they're trying to remediate. Again, the 7, I'm not sure what that means. Is that trying to get below 7 parts per billion? I'm not sure. And then here's the other remediation that they're planning on doing, which is called ISCO injection point location. And basically what they're going to do is put things down in there to bacteria to eat the dioxane, and they're going to feed the bacteria propane or things like that. And then restrict the propane, and the remaining bacteria will go and munch on the dioxane until they're tired of it. Then they have to put more propane in and build up more bacteria, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, they go into all that in the report. Let me back off here so you can see this next one a little better. So we have tables of all the data. So here's where I had to scrape the data from for everything that was in those cross-section maps are here. And go all the way down, and then they have this is one of the best things that I've seen. So for each pair of wells where there's or borings where they have APS paired with a soil boring, I have to zoom in on this so you can see the print better. they show the APS readings at the different depths, elevations, what the readings were. And over here, they show the nearby soil readings. And again, these are in parts per million, these are in parts per billion. So all these over here, you have to multiply by 1,000. There's places where it's not there. So apparently dioxin from here did not go straight down because there would have been left something in this that they must have been going back and forth in order to get down to these layers. But here you've got 1,600 over here and 1,400 over here. So this is kind of reinforces what Rita and I were just talking about. The dioxin will just go with the water and enter the water-bearing areas. There's almost the same concentrations that it was in the soils. And of course, some of these are, still going down here. And this is not necessarily all sand, so it might take a while for this to percolate down. And so there's several of these that are there. But I thought this depiction of it was interesting because it kind of gives you a side by side using two different monitoring techniques. They give you a better picture of what's going on underneath the ground. And again, it reinforces that there's really not many clay layers in this, the first 30, 40 feet. And finally, on the report, I get through all this stuff here, down. Oh, then we have the boring logs. That was sampling of the water bearing layers. Here's the actual well logs. And again, these were well logs that were permitted back in 2016 and 17 that I noticed. I'll show you that in a minute, how I found out that these must exist. But we never knew where they wells actually, we had the permits issued for it, but we didn't have where they actually ended up. So this finally closes that loop of all those permits that were pulled back then. We now have the well logs for them. It only took, 7 years, but, we got it finally.
Roger, I just want to give you a 12-minute warning to 8 o'clock.
Oh, yeah, I've finished before that.
Okay.
Now I want to jump to my Google Earth mashups of this stuff. Close this. And then jump up to the beginning here. So it's basically, I don't have to show all the peak maps. So these are the mashups I pulled together in the last week, just for this marsh area. Each one of these, takes a while to put together, but I'll just run through them real quick. Let me first locate where we're going to be talking about. Well, I should turn off the Plume map because that, this is the latest Plume maps, by the way, for that Gelman had provided directly, not through this study. And while this is up here, I guess I should show what the current Plume maps would look like from the study related to that. Oops, not that one. This one. So if I turn off the other, so these are the marshy area Plume maps that have been in recent years. I'm going to turn off all of the 2024. This is what the study says. This is where the plumes are, the Plume maps from the study. Now, of course, there's probably dioxane in other areas here. We know there is here, for instance. This is not completely remediated. We still have, several hundred parts per billion outside this Plume map. These Plume maps are probably based on 700 or more parts per billion. I got ahead of myself a little bit there. So let me just step through again. These are all the maps you just saw. I'm going to be sharing this KMZ file. So if you have Google Earth Pro, you'll be able to open this up and look at it and get all the same data that was in the report. And maybe if you're on a faster computer, it will load faster.
Hey, Roger, what does the light blue line surrounding this area represent? What's it based on?
Oh, that's their depiction of the Plume map. Each of these maps that I'm showing has that same area.
That's a depiction of the Plume.
No, that's the depiction of the marshy area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's where they say that's what they call the marshy area.
Thank you.
That's a good question, though, and the images that I have are not geocoded. So if you look carefully, you'll see them. These are shifting a couple 3 feet from one image to the next, but that's as good as I can do from the images that they provided. And then this is going to be, again, this is the Fido area. So I made a separate, separate. This is where they're going to be doing their Fido study and their Fido remediation. And then they had the ISCO injection. And this is the Plume areas for that. So these are where they're talking about doing remediation. Again, these are the plumes you just saw a minute ago. And then what's next? Oh, I have a 3D version of this too. And that'll be on the 3D map when we get to it. And they go up about as high as the previous 3D map did. These are still a lot of dioxin there in concentration. And then again, back to the boundary. This, by the way, this was the original. This is what Gelman provided as the original wetland area. And this study defines it better. Then we get into the cross sections. So these are all plotted as well. Now I'm going to step back here on this one cross section because wait. Guess when you're doing Zoom and Google Earth, sometimes you get a little sluggish here. There we go. So I had set this up to do it one at a time. So you first see the map, and then the cross section, and then I turn this one off. This will go quicker. So this is the south to north. And of course, because they did south to north, I had to reverse the turn it sideways, and you double click on this, then it'll rotate Google Earth for you so you can then zoom in and see the cross section in a normal way. Now, it turns out we have some prior cross sections. So you kind of see this is a simplistic one they had back in 87 for this same area. And then they had a better one around that same time, but not that much better. It didn't have all the details that we've seen in the current one. And then even as recent as 2021, in this one, These guys I had to reverse south to north, and it took me a while. But this one here, this will rotate around. I guess I'm not going to do this because it's going to take too long.
Yeah, Roger, you're at 5 minutes till.
Yeah. Let me turn this off. Anyway, so this is all available. Now here's the anomalies I got to go through. This is the last segment. Got to reverse this back now. Trench map. So how did the contamination get into the marshy area? It got in by running off of Pond 2, overflowing from Pond 2. Again, these are parts per million back in 1989. The high, and there are bog borings there, and we have readings for those. 202,000 parts per billion got into the marshy area from overflow from Pond 2, where they were trying to treat the effluent from their treatment. This was the Plume map for the marsh area in 1989. So of course we're going to have a lot of dioxin left. And there's a surprising amount. There was one reading up here that was 90,000 parts per billion in the peat still, far away from where the 90,000 was on this original Plume map. So you can kind of think that dioxin went a lot of other places in these intervening years. And in fact, you know, it's more than 4 miles long and more 2 miles wide now. So, but this was the start of, but this is again just on the surface. How much got into the groundwater, we don't know.
You know, Roger, I think
that's it. There are several little bugs in the reporting that, but we have the readings for these bog numbers because they're here on the map, but there's also apertures that showed on different these A numbers you see on some of the even old Plume maps. That means an aperture. That means somebody was doing readings when those were there. We do not have the data for those readings. Yeah. We do not have the data for those wells.
Roger, I got to tell you, you're actually over time. I just looked at the agenda and realized, you know, I think I'm
done.
Great. Good timing. So briefly, quickly, are there any questions for Roger on this? It's a lot of data. It's very interesting. Are there any questions?
By the way, these
people could contact Roger. I'm sorry, Vince, I didn't mean to overtalk you.
That's okay. I just wanted to make one comment. And Rita and I talked to a guy who worked at Gelman, and he dumped a lot of contamination out of that site with 5-gallon buckets and dumped them, probably in the marsh area and other areas. And so that, you know, could be something that's worth knowing, but
probably in the burn pit.
Who knows if it matters or not. But he said it was a bad day when he would go to work and he had like 25-gallon drugs to haul out, and he was told not to let anybody see him do it.
It's all hearsay until you put it on, get him on tape.
Oh, he's never going to testify.
No, but Rita and I talked to him.
He's a fragile.
He might be able to confirm somebody else's though.
No, I think it's not.
He might be willing to do that.
I don't think
Anyway, just to put it out there, and
we tried.
People know that could be some valuable information.
It's 8 o'clock, people.
Okay.
Hey, Rita,
Yes.
this you need to know about this.
Yes.
Because this relates to.
I didn't do a very good job tonight. We need Jack back.
Well, we had a
watch
lot
the
to
time.
cover. We had a lot of things that came up that we weren't planning on talking about.
Well, okay, so what
This I was planning on talking about.
Okay.
The webinar I went to last week was good, and I have
Okay.
links to it here.
Great.
I'm going to another webinar
right
tomorrow, and the
Good.
links for this are in my chair update. So go to the chair update and you get to all this stuff. You can
Clue-in is actually
join.
Yeah, Clue-in is actually put on by the EPA.
Right.
Yeah.
So this might be the last one. You better go to.
We'll see. All right. Anybody else have anything they want to say before we end this meeting? I was supposed to give 10 minutes for that. Sorry, people. All right. Well, I think that's a wrap. No, somebody want?
No, you did great. Thank you, Rita.
Good job. I could have done a quicker job in the summary. Sorry about that.
Oh, it was a lot of good information. Thank you, Raj.
Well, it was a good. I'm hoping that future analyses like this don't take 5 or 7 years to get to us. I'm thinking we can work faster than that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Hopefully the EPA will get us that data quicker.
I don't know.
Don't count on
it. But anyway, I think,
quicker.
yeah. So
Thanks, everybody.
I think the meeting should be officially over. If people wish to make any more comments and discuss with anybody, maybe you can hang on. But the meeting, I think, is
all right.
now
Meeting
closed.
Over. I can stop recording.
I think so.
Find the button.
All right. Thanks,
everybody.
Thank you very, very much.
Thanks, everyone.